dark as our conference previews continue on this Wednesday night. We welcome in a couple of new members to our family this year. It is the former head coach of the Butler Bulldogs, also at Milwaukee. He spent time on the Michigan bench. We'll get to that in a moment with the Scoop Jardine connection, but it's LaVall Jordan who joins the field of 68 this year. We've got the former Syracuse guard, led the Orange to the Big East regular season title in 2013. Scoop Jardine is with us as well, and the man, the leader of the field of 68, Rob Dauster, joins me, John Fanta. It's great to be with all you guys tonight to break down the Big East.
I got to say, Fanta, it's nice that I'm not hosting tonight. It's much more relaxing, so I can sit here. I got a little Chianti Classico here. It's a relaxing night for me, almost a night off.
Well, that means that the takes could get more and more fascinating as the hour goes on from Mr. Dauster. Gentlemen, in the Big East Conference, it was an off season that had no shortage of activity. And LaVall, you know this league, you coached in this league. The big storylines, and we're going to get to a bunch here in the coming hour, from power rankings to sleeper teams to everything in this league. The top storyline in the Big East Conference, though, goes without saying. The fact that Jay Wright, the Hall of Famer, the national champion in 2016-18, a Final Four run last year, the fact that he will not be on the sidelines this year. LaVall, as a coach in the league, like, how much did you go into every year knowing, our league's going to be good, but with Jay Wright on the sidelines, Villanova is the king until someone takes that throne?
Yeah, John, you're exactly right. That was the every year you just knew, Jay Wright's been there 2 decades, 8 Big East championships, Final Fours. And so regardless of any preseason ranking, which usually they were picked at the top, and rightfully so, but you knew who you were preparing for and who you were trying to beat. If you wanted to make it to the NCAA tournament, if you wanted to advance in Madison Square Garden, like everybody knew it comes and goes with how Villanova's doing, and Jay Wright's imprint on it being the biggest factor. So it'll be interesting to see with Kyle, who's did a really good job at Fordham, and now he's got Villanova DNA because he was there for so long. So I'm familiar with that, but it's still an adjustment to not look over and see Coach Wright on the sidelines for everybody in the building, all the fans, all the players, the opposing coach, the officials. So we'll see, how Kyle does. The good thing for him is he's got a good returning core to help him out.
Scoop, you played against Villanova, so you know what Coach Wright was all about when you played against them. What was your reaction when you saw that the Jay Wright is stepping away from college basketball, that he is retiring?
I was surprised. I mean, it was like almost like that when Tom Brady. I was very surprised when Tom Brady retired. I was very surprised. But Jay Wright did a great job at Villanova, and for me, like, he was somebody that recruited me. One of the first coaches to offer me a scholarship. So, I was actually in Philly at the time when he did retire. So I made sure I got in contact with Malik Waynes and everybody, and just to see what it was. I was very surprised. And then I was trying to see who was going to get the job next. That was my biggest.
Trying to get on staff right away, just like that?
No, not me. I wanted to see where they was going to place my guy Elite at, to be honest with you. Malik Wayne's is a great friend of mine. He's actually coaching Camden right now with DeJuan Wagner's son. So, but he was on that team last year that went to the Final Four.
Rob,
my concern about this, and I'm curious from both you and Scoop and LaVall on this one, is so much of what made Villanova great under Jay Wright was his ability to teach concepts, right? They're not out there running 35 different sets with 20 different counters to every set that they have. He's teaching them how to play basketball a very specific way. And I think part of the reason why that development was so profound within the program was that these guys really learned what he wanted. They were able to do it a specific way. And once they got really, really good at it, and we're talking about 4-star guys that are 22, 23-year-old pros by the time that they leave. That's how you build a program into a national championship contender. I don't know if Villanova can be Villanova at that same level if they're going to run things the same way, if they don't have that same level of teaching, right? That to me, that's the big concern I have with Kyle. I think the culture is still going to be there. I think that it's still going to have the cachet. They're still going to be able to get like the Villanova guys. My question is, can they be what they were and play the same way without having that teacher on the sideline?
I feel
go ahead, Scoop.
I feel as though he's going to be in a. Remember when Calhoun retired? And I'm not trying to say that, you know, Kyle is Kevin Ollie, but like I think Calhoun played a big part in the stands too and being around the team. You know, now I don't know what type of how long. I don't know if Jay Wright going to do that, but I think if I was Jay Wright, I would.
Right.
You know, it's your program, and it was very surprising like that he retired. So I think he's still going to be around. I think so. He should. What you think?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point you make, Rob, and Scoop with Calhoun and the program there, and
Yeah,
KO and giving it to somebody who's, like I said, has DNA in the program. I look at maybe Wisconsin in the Big Ten with when Bo Ryan, because everybody kind of had the same question, like if without Bo Ryan in Wisconsin, just the way that they do things, it was different than everybody else in the league. Like Villanova's way that they do things, the structure, the teaching, the culture, and Jay was, you know, the head of it. And Greg Gard's done a great job at, you know, can Kyle do, and because Greg was there for so long under Bo, Kyle was there for so long under Jay, you know, can he, you know, replicate that in the same manner? Hubert Davis at North Carolina, you know, getting a few years with Coach Williams, and being able to kind of just continue it on. And like I said, it helps when you have a veteran core on the front end of things. It helps when you got assistants like Mike Nardi and other guys that have been there too. You're not bringing in a whole new staff that doesn't know, quote unquote, the way. And so I think he's got everything that's pointing in the right direction for him to be able to do it. And now it's him putting his own personality on things.
Yeah, and for the record, Kevin Ollie won a national championship in 2014. So Kyle Neptune goes out and wins a national title. I think Villanova fans will be pretty happy with that.
No question.
First year.
No question. Here's the deal, though. Two thoughts that come to mind. Number one, over the last 9 years, Villanova basketball has gone 264 wins to just 53 losses.
Sheesh.
Over the last 9 years.
Thanks, John, for the reminder.
Hey, you know what, LaVall? You own a couple of the 53. Hinkle Fieldhouse and the bucket of water at the top of the ceilings. There's something about that, right? Right?
Yeah.
But the thing that comes to mind, too, is in the midst, folks, of the coaching change, of the changing of the throne at Villanova, like a couple of assistant coaches I was talking to today at Marquette brought up the fact that, hey, there's been a lot of change on the coaching side, not that much on the staff side, but you cannot overstate what Colin Gillespie meant to Villanova. And the fact that they lose him, Villanova has been all about point guard play at the highest level. And LaVall, I see you nodding. The fact that he is now gone, yes, Jay Wright's a Hall of Famer, but the point guard play was always at an outstanding level, not a good level, not a great level, like best in the country. And that is a huge loss for this team heading into this season.
Totally agree. And what Rob just said, like Kevin Ollie did win a national championship, but he had Shabazz Napier.
He had and Bo, right? And
so
Brian.
If you've got a guard that can help, you know, coach the team, coach on the floor, knows the way, and he can close it for you in the clutch. Right. Colin Gillespie, Jalen Brunson, Archidiakono, like those guys have come through. And with Justin Moore's injury, you know, you never know, right? You pray for the best, full recovery, and he can come back and be who he was. But that takes time too. A guy coming off Achilles or an ACL, he's coming off an Achilles. So who's that guard that all the players look to, right? Because they're used to looking to Jay Wright on the sidelines, but they're also looking for Colin Gillespie, you know, with the ball in his hands too.
I think it's got to be Caleb Daniels, right? At least off the jump. It's got to be, because I don't think you can look at Angelo Brizio is probably going to be a good player down the road for Villanova, and I think Mark Armstrong is as talented as anybody that they brought in. But it's going to take a little time with those guys. I think it's got to be Caleb Scoop, right?
He averaged 10 points last year, and what was that? His sophomore year, we averaged 16 or 17. He had one big year.
Second year at Tulane, he averaged 17. I think.
17, right? And I think that's like he got to become that guy. Like he got to like step up, and I think it's a great opportunity for him. To be real, like they all going, like you said, John. Like Villanova has great guard play, so if you want to step into that role.
But now, Scoop, he's Caleb's he's a two guard. He ain't the ball.
But he's a scorer.
You got the ball and the game plan. You're the point guard.
He got to become both a combo. I say, like he got to be able to step into that lead role. That's what I like, and it's the opportunity to do.
And who else are they going to go to? Like that's my thing with it. Is I mean, I don't know if you can trust Chris Arch at this point. So it's got to be like I think it's got to be him. No,
it has to be.
Well, I think this, just with Chris, when Gillespie got hurt 2 years ago, right, and it was the same question, and Justin had to handle some ball handling responsibilities, and Chris Arch came in and did a great job. And to add on to what Scoop said, if it is him, because he's trustworthy with the ball, he won't turn it over. They don't turn it over anyhow, just based on the play. He's not going to go get you 20 or 17. So now Caleb has to, his role, and that's what he's had his moments where, the way that they play, it could be anybody. A consistent guy that everybody looks to. I think if it's Chris Arch, then Caleb could be that guy. If Caleb has to run point, that's a different story.
I'm looking at your face, right? I don't think you think he has that in him.
No, I've seen it up close, like, on a consistent basis. When you're saying for Villanova to continue to stay at the level that they were, they've had a consistent night in, night out. Jalen Brunson, what you're getting every night. Gillespie, what you're getting every night. Dante DiVincenzo, you know what you're getting every night from that guy, from those guys. And now it was Justin and Caleb's turn to become.
That's exactly where I was going. This is the opportunity to really step up.
Here's the deal. Villanova has won. Sorry for the reminder, LaVall. The Big East regular season or tournament championship in each of the last 9 seasons. They have dominated this league. Like, this has been a good league. They average about 5.5, 6 tournament teams a year, but Villanova's been the class. Now, Villanova was picked to finish 3rd in the Big East preseason poll. That's the lowest they've been picked in nearly a decade. Which transitions us to our next topic here.
Well, I just want to say, it's amazing when you think about this, that a team that has Caleb Daniels coming back, a team that has Brandon Slater, who I think now that he's going to be healthy is going to be the guy that was averaging 14 points through the first 12 games last year. They have Eric Dixon coming back, and they got the best freshman I think they probably had coming in Cam Whitmore. Like, that group we're saying is going to be the one that finishes 3rd in the Big East instead of being the one that everybody just predicts to win. So
because of point guard play.
That's all you need to know about the point guard spot. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's just it. Like, to close on Villanova, we'll get back to them. There's not a single bigger factor in the entire Big East season than Justin Moore's injury return timeline. Because you guys know it, if Justin Moore comes off this Achilles and is able to give them half of what he was, that's still one of the best players in the Big East Conference. And that's why, let me ask you this, LaVall, if Justin Moore were healthy right now, fully healthy, Villanova's not 3rd in the Big East preseason poll, right? They're firm 2, at least.
At least. I mean, you're talking 15 points a game and 83s made last season. I mean, if that's returning, Kyle Neptune feel pretty good about, starting the season, and so would all the Villanova fans. And so, no question, John, if he's healthy to start the year, they're probably picked at the top just like they always are.
So let's talk about the team picked at the top. The Creighton Blue Jays, who last year in the Big East preseason poll were picked to finish 8th. They were thought to be in a transition year, a rebuilding year. Greg McDermott jokes, well, it kind of was, but we just then loaded up. And they got better and better and better as the year went on, despite injuries. So I ask you this. We know that Creighton is the firm number one in the Big East heading into the season, and rightfully so. Rob Dauster, do you buy that the Creighton Blue Jays are a Final Four caliber team?
Yeah, I do. I think that they are very, very good. And my hot take is that I think by the end of the season, everybody's going to realize that Ryan Kalkbrenner is not only the best defensive player in the Big East, not only the guy that we should be really looking at as a Big East Player of the Year candidate, but one of the best defensive players and one of the best big guys in all of college basketball. Then you surround that with 4 guys that can make shots, 3 guys that are able to make plays off the bounce, someone like Baylor Shireman that can come in and fill a role that we know that Greg McDermott loves, these dudes that just run off screens and shoot 35-foot threes and make them, plus Nembhard's coming back. Plus, we saw what Trey Alexander could do. I'm all in on Creighton. I understand why there are people that are like hesitant, but this is going to be a Greg McDermott team that added one of the best shooters in the country that finished last season ranked, I think it was 12th in defensive efficiency on KenPom. If you have a Greg McDermott team that is actually going to try to play defense, that is a scary thought to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a flip mode for Greg the last 3 years, really. COVID year and in the last 2, that defensively they've taken a big jump in the league, which everybody knows coach is one of the best offensive coaches in the country and always has been. And but now when you add a Kalkbrenner and you add some pieces like Kaluma and Trey and those,
he thinks he's back in the Valley, Val. That's what it is. He thinks he's back in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, I'm trying, and so he's he's morphed to a defensive coach now, and so look, there's deep and versatile, and I think if you have those 2 things, and they got a pretty good point guard with a healthy Nembhard, they've got the components to make a run, no question about it. They turned the ball over a lot last year. Now they were young, they played a bunch of freshmen. Those guys got better as the season went on, and the shooting wasn't, even with Hawkins and McConnell, they weren't a classic McDermott team shooting the basketball. And so, that's where Baylor comes in and some of the guys that they had.
I think Kaluma's going to he wasn't what he finished 27%. I think he's going to be a guy that makes like 35 to 37%.
When they came to Hinkle last year, we beat them at home, but we had no answer for him. He had like 16 as a freshman. They had all the young guys playing, and it was like, and I said to our staff, who's this kid? Like, I knew you heard about Nembhard in the in their incoming class, and it was like, who's this kid? Because he might be the one. I just think he's got all the ability to be a really good player in the Big East and beyond.
Here's the thing that's scary about them and why I love them so much, Scoop. We just talked about, I just said Ryan Kalkbrenner, I think, can be the best player in the Big East. You just heard LaVall say that the guy that they had the most trouble with was Arthur Kaluma. We already talked about point guard, the point guard Nembhard. But if you ask some of the guys on that staff, like, they say that Trey Alexander might actually be the best player on their team this year. That's a scary thought, right? There's 4 guys that could be the best player on this team. 4 different smart basketball opinions that think that they could have a different guy is the best player on the team.
So do you think Sean Miller can't pull it off, Xavier?
I mean, the thing is, like, you look at Creighton and you think about the fact that sophomore class, that's as good of a sophomore class as there is in the country. They were already going to be the preseason number 1 in the Big East with just their core back.
Yeah.
And then McDermott goes out and makes one of, if not the biggest splash in the transfer portal in Baylor Shireman, who's a Summit League Player of the Year, phenomenal season, multifaceted, one of the most efficient players in the country. Don't discount Fran Farabello, who can add perimeter shooting too. He was one of TCU's best shooters last year. Like, Scoop, they got even better.
And don't forget, there is a Miller on that team. Mason Miller is on that. No one talks about Mason Miller, who, by the way, has the highest standing vert on that roster.
So this Creighton team, Final Four team.
Yeah. Are you with me, Scoop? You're
in?
I'm sold. I'm sold.
You're in on the Blue Jays. LaVall, for a moment here, like, on Creighton, hosting them versus going there. Omaha is unlike any other trip.
It's two different. It's like you're playing two different teams.
Yeah.
I've never, I've maybe seen it, at maybe a couple different places. And it was funny because we had some guys, Emerson Campus on our staff, Brandon Crone. Those guys were here, were there with Coach Holtman before I came into, and so they tried to tell me, hey, Coach, because we beat them at home. And we were going back to Creighton. They're like, well, they play different when you go to Creighton. And you're a coach, so it's like, yeah, I hear you. Everybody, you have a little more juice at home, maybe. I don't know if I buy that, but the fans are there, and it was like they didn't miss. I mean, it was we came out and they had Mitch Ballack and all those guys. I mean, they're shooting from 35 feet, and the staff, Brandon and Emerson are looking at me like, we tried to tell you it's different when you come here, and we somehow always got them on like either the cancer awareness game where everybody's wearing pink, or dollar beer night. Which we got no shot.
Hey, LaVall, tell them about dollar beer night, because I don't know how many people know about dollar beer night.
It's 16,000 people and it's dollar beer night in Omaha, Nebraska. Like, we got no chance. Yeah.
You got no shot. You got Steve Lavin firing a t-shirt cannon into the crowd.
And
all I gotta say is Fox Sports, please never put John Fanta on that call, because I don't know if my man is going to be able to control himself on dollar beer night. We already seen what you do on the field of 68 when Miller Lights show up.
LaVall, we'll go out. We'll do dollar beer night, right, LaVall?
Yeah, I'll drive you home.
I'm gonna need it.
I'm gonna need they do there for the it's for Greg to be able to integrate Ryan Hawkins like he did last year. And that's for him to be an All Big East player and coming in as division. But they needed him to do that, and so the transfer of Baylor Shireman. I mean, he had 83 threes last year, 47%. That is remarkable. And so if he can integrate in the same way as Ryan Hawkins did, that's a huge piece because they did lack some shooting, just percentage-wise shooting, and guys that could make. You'll hear me say this probably all night, just because we struggled with shooting the last few years at Butler. Like, you can't if you got two or three guys that you got to get out to that can create some gravity on the court, it is a huge deal. It's huge for Kalkbrenner. If guys can't pack the paint. Right. So that means Nembhard's got to shoot it better. Kaluma's got to shoot it better. And, if they've made those developmental jumps, they're going to be hard to match up with.
Hey, Scoop, let me ask you this. For point guards, right? How big is that learning curve from freshman to sophomore year? Like, how much more do you know? How much more comfortable are you running an offense? I think for point guards more than any other position, that's the biggest learning curve spot.
You get that's a big leap too, from your freshman to your sophomore, because that's all it is really. You really don't know going in as a freshman. So when your sophomore year, I always say that's the year you already seen everything. Especially if you played too, you really got to play. You already know how teams playing you now. And that's the second year that you should really have a big jump, I would say, if you played as well. I played with a guy, Dion Wade, his freshman year. Mm-hmm. He played the same exact minutes he played his freshman year. He played his sophomore year. He averaged 7 points his freshman year. Sophomore year, 13 points. Number 4 pick. Never started again. But he just knew his role. He understood how the teams were going to play. He jumped up 6 extra points with the same exact minutes.
Boeheim never yelled at you and waiters.
You lying. He never yelled at Trish. He knew he can yell. If he know he can yell at you, he's going to yell at you. Like, we was guys, I guess we were from Philly. I don't know. He knew he can yell at us. We would respond, and that's what he did. And when I first got to Syracuse, I was I'm coachable. I was very coachable, but like, I had to learn Boeheim. I was too coachable. He liked dogs. Like, he wanted you to be, and yeah.
That's you.
He wanted you to yell back is what it was.
I guess. I don't know. He
right.
He felt like he can pick on us, so he yelled at us a lot, especially me.
Another thought on Creighton here. We give you nuggets on the field of 68. This is one of those guys that wows me with Creighton. I don't think the country understands this. Creighton has won 20 or more games In 22 of the last 24 seasons, the only programs that have done that more, Gonzaga, Kansas, and Duke.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like Creighton's consistency and the way that they have, they took it from the Valley to the Big East. As much as the Big East has been great for Creighton, LaVall, like Creighton has been huge for the Big East Conference.
No question. It's a program that's been relevant for a long time. When I was at Iowa, we would talk about, I was at Iowa for 3 years and we were recruiting. It was like, we need to keep some of the Iowa guys. Kyle Korver, like, we need to keep him in Iowa. He needs to come to Iowa instead of, going to Creighton. Some of those guys that they would come in and recruit did a great job with Dana Altman. And so for years, like, Creighton's been extremely relevant in the Missouri Valley and beyond, the A-10 and now the Big East. So it's always been a really good job. And they come out, the home court is real. It's the fans, they've got great support. And
they got NIL.
Yeah, and they're doing a great job with NIL, and so I think everybody there gets, when you get into these opportunities, everybody being in alignment and being on the same page, like everybody there gets it and they understand what Creighton basketball is doing for the university, it's doing for the community, and so they're all behind it, and that makes a huge difference.
Sure. Hey, we want to tell you about the Almanac. It is the best way to get ready for college basketball season. In-depth previews on every single program in the country. No matter the conference, Bobby D's got it. He's got the paper copy. You can get your copy. Thealmanac.gumroad.com, folks. $19.99. It is the best $19.99 purchase you are ever going to make. Correct, Robert?
Yes, without a doubt. No question about it.
And you did our Big East preview?
I did do the Big East preview. Of course. Who else would they let do a Big East preview?
Well, then guess what? I'm going to have you answer this question.
Okay.
So if Creighton's won, who's their biggest challenger? Who's the biggest challenger to the Blue Jays? Oh, no. Oh.
Yes.
Walker.
I thought you would never ask, Fanta. I thought you would never ask. Look, Adama Sanogo is the best big guy in this conference.
Okay.
I know what I just said about Ryan Kalkbrenner.
I know I was about to say.
I know what I just said about Ryan Kalkbrenner, but in terms of proven production, there is nobody that is better than what Adama Sanogo has done in that league. They have him some depth this year. Donovan Klinging's coming off the bench that can give you 12 to 14 minutes a night. I think that's going to be huge for Sanogo's legs. I think what we saw down the stretch of the season, he got a little bit more tired. They brought in a whole bunch of transfers that can do the jobs that they're going to be asked to do, right? To me, if UConn's going to have an actual chance to win this league, LaVall, I'm really curious what you think about this. They need Andre Jackson and Jordan Hawkins to take significant steps. I'm talking like Jordan Hawkins, first team All Big East. I'm talking Andre Jackson ended up being a second-round pick. Like, if those two guys take those steps, then you're looking at a team that's going to have 3 or 4 guys with length and athleticism and shooting ability around the best low post scorer in the conference. I think they're going to be really, really good if those two guys take a lead.
Yeah, well, Sanogo's proven, leading rebounder, one of the top scorers. I think the thing that'll be interesting, there's a lot of new faces in the league. And so the transfers, I look at, and again, I went up against Scoop's guy. I heard him say his name earlier, RJ Cole, and this is going to be the question for a lot of the teams in the Big East.
I got the cold-blooded tee on underneath the jersey. Yeah, the cold-blooded T-shirt on underneath.
You are
down the stretch in the last 2.5 minutes of the game. Do we know where we're going? And I think, and they knew everybody knew where it was going with Connecticut. Everybody knew where it was going with Villanova. So now, yes, Sanogo's really, really good, but I don't know how often it's going to a big guy. So it's probably going to be a guy. So Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson, he developed, shot it better last year. Jordan he's a scorer coming off the bench, but again, point guard play. So we're going to come back to this. Like, who is that? Because I
think they're going to try to make it be Andre Jackson. I don't know if Tristan Newton is necessarily the guy that's going to come in for RJ Cole and replace anywhere near that production, right? They like the Diarra kid, the transfer from Texas A&M, but to me, he's more of like a change of pace guy, like someone you bring in to kind of get out in transition, give you a little bit of a different look. I think it's got to be Andre Jackson. To me, their best five: Andre Jackson, Naheem Aline, the transfer coming in from Virginia Tech, Jordan Hawkins, Alex Caravan, who I think he's going to be really. I think he's going to shoot at like 40% from three, average like 8 and 6, a couple assists, be in the right spot defensively. Those four around Adama Sanogo. You got a lot of length and athleticism out there. 3 guys that can make shots, and someone that, at least in theory, and Andre Jackson can pick out a pass. Now, sometimes that pass is going into the 9th row, right? That's the big thing with him.
And is Tristan Newton, the other transfer, like, can he help facilitate? Because
right.
And here's the other thing with Connecticut, because I think they're talented and they have all, but Coach Hurley defensively, like, don't minimize the loss of Robert Whaley defensively. I mean, that's where their bread is buttered. Now they're going to be physical, defensive minded, and all over the backboards. And that was, Robert Whaley to a T. So that piece is gone, and it'll be more skilled with a guy like Caravan. But coach is going to sub you out if you're not guarding the way he wants to guard. Scoop. I don't know, they were playing zones. So I don't know if they got subbed out if they missed the slides, but I know Hurley. Like, if guys aren't covering their assignments, like, they're going to sit for a few. And so can they definitely defensive prowess that they've had the last few years, because that's where they really made their impact.
Scoop, what do you think of UConn?
I like them. I agree with you, Rob. Again, I like the enthusiasm. I think they're really good. I like the kid Joey. What's the kid named Joey? Forget his last name.
Yeah, Calcaterra.
Yeah, I think he had all of the guys that's coming back have a chance to really, like, prove themselves this year.
Here's the thing with UConn, okay? You know that Sanogo is the focal point. For Connecticut, when they hit a 3, it feels like 6 because they're just wired that way. It's going to be a street fight. Last year, when they were rolling, they were straight up bullying teams night in, night out. And it was 2 hours of hell for certain teams around the Big East because you just don't have a way to combat the physicality. And then when they're getting perimeter shot making. And I'm going to tell you what, guys.
Now, John,
the main guy behind that was Tyrese Martin.
I was just going to say that personnel was built to bully you. You got Whaley and Martin and
they're not
RJ.
built that way. They're not necessarily built that way. Yeah, go ahead, LaVall.
No, you have Whaley and Martin and RJ, and those three they're dogs now, and they were built to play that way.
Right.
One thing I would say to that is I think that Hurley wants more. Last year was more like he had 3 or 4 forwards around RJ Cole, right? And I think the ideal team for him is more 3 or 4 big guards around a post. Does that make sense? Like, I think if you look at Whaley, you look at Martin, they're kind of guys that they're going to make an open shot, get an offensive rebound, or they're driving to the rim straight line. Whereas now you got Jordan Hawkins, who in theory, you could run him off screens, you could put him in ISOs, you could do different things with him. I think Alex Caravan is more of a guy that is catch and shoot, keeps the ball moving. It's gonna flow a little better with him out there. And Andre Jackson, if he's the guy on the ball, I think it looks different, even though you have guys that are similar size. But I think this group is built a little bit more similar to what Hurley wants. The only problem, I think, it's RJ Cole, man. Like, he was such a killer in big moments.
He was. Look at the win over Villanova. Look at so many other big moments. The thing is, here's where I agree with you, Rob. I thought that by virtue of their style last year, as Rob is a great father as well. He's playing the role of day. Are your kids in agreement with you on UConn? They've also got UConn this year.
Yeah, they're all in. They're all in. They're out there doing the UConn chant right now.
Of course they are. The interesting thing to me, and I think Hurley saw this down the stretch last year, they were so reliant on Cole that then fatigue plays an issue and you just wear down. I feel like in the offseason, you get Aline, you get Newton, you get DR. Like, they loaded up on just different guards who could do different things to not have it be on one sole guy, on top of what Hawkins and Jackson bring to the table. So it's going to be interesting to see with UConn if these pieces can all mesh into place. But I don't think there's any bigger factor, guys, than Jordan Hawkins taking the leap that's predicted, because, frankly, last year we only saw limited flashes of it. And the way they're talking this year, they're talking about him being one of the 10 best players in the Big East Conference. That is a seismic leap in a tough league to make. It just is, right?
Yeah, John and Scoop, Scoop's play, he knows this. Like Jordan Hawkins, I'm looking, like he played 15 minutes a game last year. And obviously everybody's expecting that to increase this year. But the thing he has and is Bobby, Coach Hurley, they're going to run some pretty intricate sets, and they're going to run a lot of them. So now if you're a first-year guy coming into the program, this was the value of transfers sitting for a year. They could learn the system on the sit-out year.
Right.
Now you're going to come in and pick all of this up. So Jordan already knows the system in terms of where his shots are coming from, how to get open. He's done it. He watched Tyler Poley do it, and he watched Tyrese Martin do it. Like, he's been in it. And so he's got an advantage there because he knows the system. And that's a huge thing, right, Scoop?
Especially when you know it, for sure.
Well, so it'll be interesting to see what the Huskies bring to the table. So Rob has the Huskies as the biggest challenger to Creighton. Scoop, who's the biggest challenger to Creighton in the Big East? Or who could win the Big East other than the Blue Jays?
I'm going to say Sean Miller and Xavier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you say Musketeers?
I feel like this the year that they're going to do it. They was picked second, I think. Second or third? Second, right? Yeah. I think this the year that I'm high on Creighton, mostly because of Rob, but Sean Miller.
Wait, hold on a second. Don't do anything.
No,
Producer Dagan
you,
Hughes will agree with me here. You just don't do anything because of Rob.
Well, I know I'm high on Creighton because of Rob, like, for sure. But I think Sean Miller and the Xavier team this the year.
Well, what
to prove themselves.
When you saw Sean Miller, Xavier,
right?
Like, what was your first reaction?
Very surprised, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was with Scoop. I was surprised. And obviously they were still playing at the time when it was announced, and so yeah. But it was a bit of a surprise for, I guess Steve Prohm just did it. Went back to Murray State, and that had been, I think that had been announced maybe at the time, but it was a little bit of a surprise that Sean's going back.
Right.
Now I'll say this: I've gone around to I've enjoyed the last 3-4 weeks of just been going around getting to some practices and watching some teams work out. And Xavier was one of the places that I went. And I don't, I'm not doing it because of Rob with Creighton, but Scoop and Xavier, like being there and seeing them.
You're right.
I think they have, and I think really good teams have this. And if you have it sooner rather than later, you're going to be better off. And they have a connectivity. They won the preseason NIT last year without Paul Scruggs. That's a huge deal because we're sitting here talking about all the missing point guards that teams don't have coming back. RJ Cole and Kylie. Well, Paul Scruggs isn't back, but Xavier won the NIT without him. And so, and a lot of those guys are returning, with Kunko back, with Kobe Jones back. They got the two big guys back, Fremantle and Nunji. So I like their pieces, and they've got some new guys that'll have to impact them at the guards with Desmond Claude and I forget the point guard.
Tim Kraft.
No, the
Sule Boom.
Sule.
So
he'll have to play. Those two will have to. Sule and he scored. So Scoop, I don't know. Transitioning to be more of a point guard because he was a scorer.
Oh, first, okay.
But if he can do that and add into that group that's already been together, they've got a connectivity that's obvious when you see them.
Also, I feel like Sean, he does great with transfers anyway, for getting them to buy into his offense. I think he did it with Momo when he was in Arizona.
Mm-hmm. The other thing being there, John, it was this, like, they're not changing systems just because they changed coaches.
Right.
And there was a little bit of, when I came back to Butler or Kyle Neptune taking over at Villanova, everything's not changed. The guy at the front of the bench is changing, but they're not completely. He knows Xavier. He knows the way. They're not changing. Travis Steele was there as an assistant when Sean was there.
Right. So
they're not just rewriting the script here. So the guys are comfortable. There's going to be a comfort level that maybe, won't get enough credit early, but late I think it'll show.
I think there's also a level of uncomfortability that's going to show up there, because I think we saw it with the suspension early on of Zach Freemantle, right? I think that there's going to be a level of accountability that's going to be held by the guy at the head of the bench, that is going to make sure we don't kind of see some of those collapses that we saw at the end of the year with Xavier. But I do have a question for you, LaVall. Are you calling any Xavier games this year? Do you have them?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them early.
Is Fanta on the call with you for any of them?
I stay in my East Coast. LaVall knows I sit on Federal Hill and eat Italian food and hang with Cooley. I don't.
So here's what we need. What we need is we need to speak this into existence. We need John Fanta and LaVall Jordan on a Xavier game in the Cintas Center when Sully Boom makes a big shot, so we can get Fanta out there calling that big shot. Fanta, give me a Sully Boom. You need it. Come on, am I wrong?
We'll make that come to fruition. I'm curious, Scoop.
Yeah.
As we turn the corner here, okay. So we've covered really what we think. There's a collection of 4 teams there at the top, guys. We just talked about them in Creighton, Villanova, Xavier, and Connecticut. The big question in the Big East is who is 5, and one of the areas I want to zone in on, one of the teams I want to zone in on, is actually St. John's. So St. John's has this situation, right? They have Posh Alexander back. He's an all Big East preseason first-team selection. They've got Andre Curbelo from Illinois. So, Scoop, you got multiple guards. In an atmosphere like that, I got 2 questions for you. One, how much has the point guard position changed in college basketball and what you do? And what's that like when you've got 2 primary ball handlers on the same team?
I think that helps the team, having 2 primary ball handlers. If they can gel, what you think, Coach? If they can gel, I think that, it's always about gelling. But if you have two ball handlers, which every great team, you really do need 2 guys that can boogie. Look at UConn when they had Boat Wright and Shabazz Napier. That's why they were so tough in the tournament.
In
tournament play, you really need those guys that can really do that instead of having 1 primary.
What's the key to gelling, though, Scoop? Like, you got to leave your ego at the door?
I think that's coaching too. I think that's coaching, and that's the culture, because when you look at it from, like with us at Syracuse, we always had, and we couldn't play together really because he played zone. So it kind of like we got caught in the shuffle, but we always had guys who can do. Like it was myself, you had Waiters, you had Trish. Everybody, if I didn't bring it up, I just give it to Trish and move out the way. That helps, though. That helps the team.
Sure. Now the one question there, as we stick with the Red Storm.
Right. Do they have a second guy?
Not do they have a second guy, but do they have enough shooting on the perimeter? Because Alexander and Curbelo, LaVall, as much as they're talented, who's making shots for that team?
Yeah, it's a great. You lose obviously Julian Champagny.
Right.
I still lose sleep over trying to figure out how to match up with Champagny.
How does David Jones fit there? You don't think it could be him?
I think it has to be. Now he was a good shot maker, not a great shot maker, but he had huge games. Last year he's a guy that can get 30 as a Champagny. I think style is huge. They averaged 18 assists a game last year because of style of play. They're up and press, and Posh and Curbelo keep the pressure up the way coach wants to play, and they don't let up. They play motion, on the other end. So to Scoop's point, I think Adewasu, he was their second assist league. Like he was top 10 in the league in assists.
Okay.
Him and Posh last year. Now they're going to add Curbelo. So the ball will move. They'll run their motion. They'll press, and the game will be, like this. Now their thing will be defensively that has to translate. They led the league in scoring last year because of the way they play, because of having Champagny. David Jones can pick up some of the slack, but can that sustain defensively? Because ultimately Creighton's a whole lot better because they're a better defensive team. Right? Villanova's always, they were top of the league last year in points per game allowed, whereas, St. John's was 10th when you start getting into conference games. So, can they defend? They got to have to make some shots, but they'll create enough possessions with the way that they play.
Sure.
Can they actually sit down and get stops late in games when it matters?
Rob, this is part of Hot Seat Watch. We do this with every conference. We talk about the different programs. We talk about the jobs. This is year 4 of the Mike Anderson era. They have yet to make the tournament under him. How critical of a season is this for Anderson? Are they good enough to be a tournament team?
Yes, they're good enough to be a tournament team. I think that it is. You got to start winning eventually, right? And I don't know if this is necessarily the year where you have to say, if he doesn't make the tournament, you got to get rid of him, kick him to the curb. But they have a team that should be good enough to at least be in the mix, right? This can't be the kind of year where you're losing to, like the Fordhams in the preseason. You're losing to Eastern Kentucky and you're losing some of these bye games, which frankly, with the way that this St. John's team is built, I think is probably going to end up happening. This is the kind of team where every pressing team, in my mind, it becomes like a boulder rolling downhill, right? Once you start forcing turnovers, once you get into a point guard's head, once you climb up in people, once you force them to take the ball out of the basket, out of bounds and inbound it, you can get into that press and it just kind of rolls over on itself. But it's also the kind of thing where if you're giving up layups and you can't get those stops and you can't get those turnovers and you can't get that first moment started to go on these 12, 14-0 runs, then you can lose to teams that you're not supposed to lose to. And I think we're going to see that with St. John's. I would bet money that they're going to lose a bye game that everyone says, how did they lose that game? And then they're going to go out and do something like go into Creighton and beat Creighton or go into Villanova and beat Villanova, because that's just what they do. And that's just what pressing teams are built as. And will they have enough good moments to be able to get them to, 20-10 and a 500 record in the Big East? Because frankly, I think 20-10, 500 record in the Big East is probably going to be good enough to get in the tournament this year. I think in this conference, I think you can get 7 teams in. I don't think that's crazy to say.
No. 20-10 get you a bid.
Yeah, I think so. Out of this conference, out of this league, my take on the
whole Big East, we didn't get in.
Yeah, my take on this league is that
we finished 8th. We didn't get in.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the one thing on Anderson and St. John's. Talking with Anderson on Monday, he has set the expectation level, which you're going to do, but
right.
publicly, he has now said, we are a tournament team. He said the tournament is a given. Those are big words. Those are big words, and they're big.
That should be the expectation for that group and that roster, and that when you have Posh Alexander and Andre Cabello in the backcourt, that should be what the expectation is. But that doesn't, teams don't always live up to expectations. And to me, when you play that pressing style, that's the easiest style to, I don't think disappoint is the right word, but kind of not live up to that expectation, because it's so easy to have it not work. When it works, you look great. When it doesn't work, you look like, you have no idea what you're doing.
But it's a little simple, right, LaVall? You give opponents in the Big East more possessions.
Yeah, the two things that you got to score. To your point, do they have enough shooting and scoring? Because you got to score to be able to set the press.
Right.
So if the other team's just playing because they're not shooting the ball well, or they don't have enough, then they'll just be playing transition defense all game long. And 2, what we've cited in the league already is point guard play within the league. So for a team that presses, who are the point guards? Who are the guards that are going to have to handle it throughout the league? Because I always thought, when you get into big Power 6 conference basketball, it's harder to press because the guards are so good.
Right. You're relying on other teams making mistakes. And when you get to this level of basketball, good teams are not going to make mistakes. It's hard.
And so how seasoned are the backcourts in the league going to be? Xavier gelled, has UConn found a point guard, because when they run into St. John's, if they're still trying to figure out their point guard, it could be a disaster for Connecticut. Is Xavier, is Sule Boom the point guard for Xavier? Because if they catch them early, and I don't know their schedules, but the timing of when they play people is going to be a big part of, I think, their season and which way it goes.
That's been the same old St. John's story for some time now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is St. John's New York's team?
No.
Not even.
Oh my gosh!
You know who New York team? You know who it is, Scoop. You know who it is, Scoop. You can admit it. You can admit. We can be honest. This is an honest show. This is an honest show. You can be honest.
We being honest. That's why John X. He know who's New York's favorite team is.
Is it Connecticut, Scoop?
No. Orange.
No. Is it the team that beat? Is it the team that beat IUP last night?
Yeah.
Were you sweating it? Were you sweating at halftime last night?
No, not even.
Hey, feel the 68 daily every morning. Hit in your inbox. Mike Miller and his crew do an amazing job. 8:30 a.m. Eastern time every single morning. You got to subscribe. You got to check it out at the Field of 68. Field of 68 daily is your source. Subscribe, read it, because it gives you the latest in college basketball every single morning. And hey, by the way, tomorrow night, 8 Eastern time, Megan McCune, one of our newest team members, along with Jeff Goodman, Geo Baker, Robbie Hummel, they will have your Big Ten season preview show. That is going to be a dandy. And Rob, I know we're excited about all our additions here at the Field of 68.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a good show. We have these shows running all next week as well. Pac-12, SEC. We're going to be doing the best of the rest, and we have an All-American show where we may or may not be joined by a couple of our first-team All-Americans. I don't want to give that away yet, Fanta. I don't think we can't give it away yet. We can't give it away yet.
All right, we got about 10 minutes here, okay? So we're going to go a little bit more rapid fire to break down the rest of the league. So I'm asking you, I'll start with you, LaVall. I'm giving you this collection of teams, okay? Providence, Seton Hall, Marquette, Butler, and St. John's. You get to buy 2 stocks, two of those 5. Who are you buying into?
Providence, because I got faith in Cooley and his way to just figure out what he did with Al Durham last year, having to have him come in one year, him and Mania, and make that work. He's got a lot of new pieces, but if anybody can make it work, Ed'll make it work. And they've got a point guard coming back in Jared Bynum. So I'm I'd say
best point guard in the league. Is that fair to say?
Ooh.
Question.
Great. From a production standpoint on the return, yeah. And big games stepping up. Like, who's got the RJ Cole? He beat us at home last year down the stretch. Like, who's got that the stuff in him late in the game to bring it home? He had the big shot, I think, against Xavier last year with no timeouts. And so he's done it. So you can't discount the fact that he's competed and he's won his team games. So, I would say on the way back in, he's the most, he's been the most productive of anybody in the league coming back at the point guard position. Posh will probably have something to say about that, but
right,
because Posh has done, those 2 guys. When you think of the league and returning point guards, they jump out. And then I would say, did you say Marquette? Was Marquette in that group?
They're in that group.
That was the 12.
I just knowing Coach Smart and they're going to play extremely hard. They were really good defensively last year. They'll have to answer the same question: where are we going down the stretch for a bucket? Because now Daryl Morcell is gone and Justin Lewis is gone, and if David Joplin can make the jump, similar to Jordan Hawkins, if he can make the jump, Tyler Kovalic's one of the best passers I've coached against. I mean, he has elite vision, but he's got to have somebody to swing it to and somebody to find. And they've got Oso, who I think is a matchup problem. So those 2, I would say, just based on what's returning and the coaches having the experience of putting it together.
Fanta, I got a hot take here. I think that Providence doesn't belong in that group. They belong in the group above it. I think that they're closer to the top 4 than they are to the rest of that group for a couple of reasons. One, I think Jared Bynum, like I said, is the best point guard in the conference. 2, trust in Cooley at all costs. And 3, Bryce Hopkins, I think, is going to be one of the breakout stars in college basketball this year. I think there's a non-zero chance that he ends the season as the biggest player of the year. If he's as good, go ahead.
On their roster that I went to their practice that I really liked, Hopkins stood out, was Devin Carter from South Carolina. He's going to help them.
At media day, he showed up. He had on the gray plaid suit with the white turtleneck and this big old chain. And as soon as I saw the big old chain and the turtleneck, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm in.
Well,
I didn't even need to see him practice, LaVall. That's how much ball I know.
Terrific defender, right, LaVall? I mean, terrific
Yeah,
defender.
he's like cut for Cooley. Just he's
I like
versatile. He can defend. He's long. He's tough. Like he's gonna get you some scrum buckets. Like he's just one of Cooley's type of guys.
So I would say out of that group that you mentioned, the two that I would be buying is Marquette for a lot of the reasons that LaVall just said, and I also like Butler. I think that adding the shot blocking presence of Manny Bates is big, and the two freshmen coming back, LaVall. I don't know how to say his name, Simos.
Lukosius. If Jaden and Simos can take the jump, Lukosius and Jaden Taylor, those two guys are talented as any perimeter guys in the league. Taking the jump and fitting into a new system with Coach Mata. And then they've added the inside presence, with the two big guys transferring in. And Chuck Harris is, proven that he can score in this league. So
Eric Hunter coming in too, like makes shots, defends. He's a really good piece and a veteran that has won a lot of games at Purdue.
I'm gonna go out on the limb and say Marquette as well for a lot of what y'all said, but Georgetown has to do.
Oh boy!
Wow! All right. Like okay.
Must. No, seriously, it's like a must coach. Something.
I don't.
Hold on, Scoop. I got a question, Scoop.
But I'm not throwing shade either. I'm rooting.
But no, I know. But are you like you just said? You're just saying good things about Georgetown. Are you allowed back in upstate New York? Like, is there now a line that you can't cross? Is there a moat you're not allowed to go across?
Georgetown wasn't our rival when I was at Syracuse. It was more Villanova with us.
Okay,
it wasn't Georgetown.
Okay, so now like you can't.
Did Rob give you some of his drink?
No, this is water.
Just making sure. Okay. So tell me why about Georgetown.
I'm gonna just say, to be honest, all the way, Patrick Ewing on the hot seat. This is the year he has to really to me, they have to make a splash at least. And
they can't go 0-19.
I think they finished 10th, right? Or 9th. 10th.
You got to win at least one game.
They finished 11th last year because
Scoop, you got to win at least one game if you're Patrick Ewing this year. You got to get at least one. But then you could just kind of say it's improvement.
I'll make the case for you, Scoop. They're a different team. So Quadras Wahab is back. He averaged 13 a game with Coach his sophomore year before he transferred. Yes. Now he's back. He should have been at Georgetown as an all-league big man last year. Wow. They got a point guard with Dante Harris. So you got a big man, you got a point guard. They got a legit dude in Murray, the kid that transferred in from LSU.
Brandon Murray.
I was about to say that. I know Murray really well.
Yeah, he hit 43s last year as a freshman. Not easy to do. And you add in a cook. If it all comes together, I don't know if Scoop's that far off.
Man, listen, it's gonna have. I know Murray really well, but I think it has to come together.
Here's what I like. Patrick Ewing said today. Patrick Ewing has taken on a very different tone here. Here he is coming off a winless Big East season, and there's not many coaches who are going to get another run around here, another chance to avenge that in today's college basketball. That is happening for Georgetown because it's Patrick Ewing. But Patrick Ewing said today, sometimes you have to give up some of your power to realize what you really need to be as a program. In other words, it can't all be Patrick Ewing. He had to shake up his staff. It had to happen. Kevin Nickelberry was a terrific add. He's immediately established his credibility on that staff, and it's going to bring in talent. And already is brought in. But we're running out of time here. We got to get to power rankings. We have to get to power rankings.
One point real quick on Georgetown. I don't know what's going on with Dante Harris and Patrick Ewing. And Jay Heath, I don't know. Do we have any word on whether or not he's eligible this year?
Because I know that they're still waiting. 2 updates on Georgetown. They're still waiting on Heath's waiver. And the other update is that Dante Harris has been away from the team due to personal reasons.
Yeah. So Primo Spears during the offseason, Patrick was kind of hinting at the fact that Primo was going to win that starting job. And he happens to hail from Hartford, Connecticut, which means he's probably going to end up being a star. He may be the second best point guard in that conference if he's from Connecticut.
All right, here we go. Power rankings. Let's go. I'm not even going to I'm not listening to you. Power rankings
Just
time.
Go right on past it. That's okay.
Power rankings time. We got to start at number 11. Do we all agree that until otherwise proven, DePaul is at 11? Okay. No one talked.
Yeah. Agree.
Yep. All right. Georgetown is 10.
Can I go out on a limb? Yeah, hold on. I just want to say on our Big East preview show, Fanta, you were all in on DePaul. You said they were the most underrated team in the conference, and now you're putting them at 11 for everybody else.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about this.
I
don't know how I feel about this. I feel like I've been sandbagged over here.
These are preseason rankings. An 11th, I'm putting them at 11 so that when they beat someone, I can say I told you all. So okay, Georgetown's. These are preseason rankings. Georgetown's 10, right?
Yes.
All right. Who comes in at number 9? Marquette was picked to finish 9th. Who actually comes in at number 9?
You want me to take it? I'll go first.
Go ahead, Rob.
I think it's going to end up being, if I have to like rank them, I would probably put Marquette there, just because I think that they have more guys that need to take a leap than other teams in that kind of a tier, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. Like with what you're losing, you're kind of betting on Cam Jones to get better, and you're betting on Tyler Kolek to get better, and you're betting on Oso to take this jump. So I kind of need to see it, but I think that there's the potential there for them to be a turn. I think you have DePaul and Georgetown to the bottom 2. And then to me, it's like there's a tier of 4, and Marquette is probably the one that I would have 9th out of that group. Does that make sense?
Scoop doesn't agree.
Scoop, who's 9?
St. John's.
Yes. It could happen, man. It really could happen.
St. John's could finish 3rd. They could finish 11th.
I'm telling you, it's a jump. Watch.
It depends what night you get.
You never know what's going to be with St. John's.
That's what kept LaVall up at night. LaVall, that's what kept you up at night. You didn't know what you were getting.
That game, you could be up 20 or you could be down 20. Like
that's St. John's.
There was a game you played them, right? Weren't you down like 20? Then you came back and won.
We were up 26. Then they came back. Next thing you know, we were down 4 and had to hit a shot. It was like that, and it was like that every time we played them.
St. John's.
All right, who's number 8? I'm going to say Butler.
Yeah, I got Butler.
I think it's Butler too.
Okay. Yeah. Number 7 to me. So that's where I actually go St. John's. I think St. John's is number 7 in my book. Mm-hmm. Anybody going to go different?
I had Marquette at 7 and St. John's at 6.
Which means you got Seton Hall probably at 8.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would have Seton Hall at we're at 7, right? I would have Seton Hall right above Butler is where I would have them.
I think losing Big Ike is a big thing defensively, Okubiagu and health. Obviously, if they're healthy, but they all got to be healthy.
Well, and losing Jared Roden. Losing Jared Roden's a huge loss. Seton Hall hinges on Kadari Richmond. They need him to. The Pirates have different players who can do different things, but they need a lead guard who can set up these guys. And Richmond, to me, 28 against UConn one day, not good the next day. You didn't know what version of him you're getting. Alamir Dawes, quality ad. Femi Odukali, quality ad. Yep. Casey and Defo is ready to be in the Big East, but for Seton Hall, they got to have point guard play. If they have it, they're going to be a pretty good team. They're going to be a tough out. If they don't,
Alamir Dawes, buy stock now.
Yeah,
Alamir Dawes, buy stock now.
The shooting is a concern for me.
Shooting's a concern, absolutely. They'll defend and rebound, but at some point you got to make shots. All right, who comes in at number 6?
Johnny's.
Okay. Scoop?
I'm going with Seton Hall.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I think that's a proper place to put them. I think Seton Hall's anywhere between like 5 and 7 or 8. Who's number 5?
Anyone 6 to 9. I think you could put any of those 6 to 9 works.
Providence 5?
I would have Providence 5.
Stay there.
Who's 4?
I took a leap.
Oh.
Dauster's not gonna like this.
Oh man, cut him off the show.
There.
Cut him off the show.
You had Connecticut at 5?
Unbelievable.
Here's the thing.
I put my faith in Cooley. I put some stock in the head.
Good place to put stock in. Good place to put stock in. Look, so you got Providence up to number.
Proven point guard. Scoop knows this. If you don't know anything else about me, Scoop, if you learned on this show, if we got a point guard and a good defense, I can sleep well.
That's
right. Well,
Coach,
and here's the
I'm
thing.
getting into coaching. That's exactly what you need. Good point guard and a good defensive game.
Okay. Scoop, who do you have? Scoop, give me your top 4 teams in the Big East. We'll finish with this here.
My top 4 teams is Creighton.
Right.
Rob, you did it. But Creighton, Xavier, Villanova, UConn.
Okay.
Yeah.
LaVall Jordan, your top 4.
I went Creighton, Nova, Providence, Xavier.
Wow. That means that Bryce Hopkins is an all Big East first team selection, in my opinion. If Providence
you went to watch them work out.
He's big time, folks. He's what Ed Cooley's had with LaDante Henn and Kadeem Batts, like stretch fours that get it done.
Hey. I want to see what y'all. I want to see the point guard from Providence. I'm excited.
Bynum?
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
I'm gonna really pay attention to him.
Heavy commitment from Bynum. All right, Rob, top 4.
You're gonna be surprised with this one. I have Creighton winning it. I have UConn finishing second. I have Xavier finishing third. I have the Friars finishing fourth. And I have Villanova as the number 5 team in the preseason poll.
I'm surprised. Okay.
I need to see it. Whitmore, Whitmore has been out with a broken thumb, right? Justin Moore, we don't know when he's coming back. And we already talked about the point guard situation with that program. You got Jay Wright coming in. Maybe I'm on a limb, but
I still think they finished top 4.
Yeah, I think 2 through 5, we're probably going to look at a situation where it's like 2 teams are 12-6, and then 2 teams are 11-7. Right? Is that
sure? I think Creighton, Xavier, Villanova, UConn, but I'm going to give this take. Of the teams in the Big East, Xavier makes the deepest NCAA tournament run. I really like that team in March. I think, and I also think this, for the first time since Big East reconfiguration, a Midwest team is going to win the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden.
Love this fact. This is like the 9th time I've heard you mention this.
Well, we keep showing up to these championship games and it's Villanova this and Villanova that.
The thing that I'll say, John, is it is, with Coach Wright gone, and obviously Creighton's the favorite, preseason favorite, but really, I mean, if you take the 5 teams that you kind of all had it there, any of them could win it. I mean,
any one of them could win it. It's open. That's what makes
it's not Villanova and everybody else, I don't think. I don't know if Creighton and everybody else because they still have to do it as well. I mean, they're young.
I think you misspoke there, LaVall. You said that anybody can win. I think you mean anyone can finish second, right? we're all in on Creighton, Scoop. Let's go.
We'll see. Well,
I like Xavier.
The analytics don't like Creighton as much as we do. That's
again,
true.
Turnover problems last year, and they didn't shoot it great. And they lost 2 great shooters. They lost their 2 best shooters, and they didn't shoot it great. They had a big-time shooter with Baylor, it's not. So.
And they did lose 2 of their top 3 scorers, for what it's worth. They did.
Right.
Hawkins and O'Connell. Yeah. All right. Player of the year. Player of the year in the Big East is going to be
preseason or picks for our postseason.
Give me your preseason and a postseason. Quickly.
Preseason is Dama Sanogo. I'm all in on the idea that it's Ryan Kalkbrenner that ends up winning at the end of the year.
Scoop.
I'm gonna go with Ryan.
Ooh.
Like it?
I'm gonna go out of the box. Everybody will pick Sanogo, Kaluma. Big East tournament, my man was 13-6. NCAA tournament, my man was 18-9 last year as a freshman.
18-9 here?
18-9, 24 against Kansas as a freshman. And now he's gonna shoot the ball better, and he's 6'7", 6'8", and you got to match up with him.
He also claims he's the funniest guy on the roster, so I don't know. Anyone that claims
look at Fanta. Fanta's got his hand on his head with that one.
Because that's my pick too. I think Art Kaluma is going to be the Big East Player of the Year. I really do. He's the best pro prospect in the league. He's the most difficult matchup in the league. This is the year of Arthur, baby. Art Kaluma, to me, is going to be big time for Creighton. Big time. And if it's not Kaluma for Creighton, then I would think of Bynum for Providence. Think about it.
Fanta, I'm trying to figure out if you're shocked because I said what you said or you said what I said.
I love that we matched. Hey,
LaVall, you don't want to be on that island, man. Like, you want to change your pick.
Come over to fantasy.
Change your pick.
Come over to Fantasy Island. We'll serve you some buca de pepo, and we'll have a good night. That's LaVal's favorite Italian. So that's what I'm talking about. All right, that does it for Scoop Jardine, LaVall Jordan, Rob Dauster, John Fanta saying so long. Thanks to producer Dagan Hughes. We are back tomorrow. After Dark season previews continue with Jeff Goodman, Robbie Hummel, Geo Baker, Megan McCune with the Big Ten preview. Will Indiana win that league? The guys are going to discuss tomorrow night. You've been watching Field of 68 After Dark. This has been the Big East.